took a one trade today. It was a long on ES, or technically I took three trades because I took an initial position and then I scaled again because it was an A plus setup. But overall, I took one trade. It was a long on ES and it was a win. So let's get into that. So going into today, I was bullish bias. Why was I bullish going into today? So as you can see, let me just low key go to pre-market. Um, so what have we done over the past like couple days, like since Tuesday? After this big displacement like higher on NQ, we end up getting the rebalance. We come to this into this 4 hour imbalance. We sweep out this 4 hour intermediate low, and then we're also rejecting off of, or we're tapping equilibrium of this bullish price leg. So notice 50% of the price leg gets tapped beautifully. We're inside of the 4 hour fair value gap. This is also a daily fair value gap. So as you can see, if I take these drawings off, there's a small but daily fair value gap right here on NQ. We tap it, and then, like I said, we had the 4 hour, and then right when I got on the market this morning, when I looked at the charts, I immediately recognized an internal sweep of sell side with heavy displacement higher as a reaction of that. So internal manipulation in equilibrium of the price leg, generated buy side above, and then I see this 1 hour large bearish fair value gap get completely ran through. And this was on the 1 hour, and then I immediately go to the 15-minute in pre-market. This is where we were. Hang on. So pre-market, we were right here, and as soon as I go to the 15-minute, I mark out this 15-minute fair value gap, and I'm like, okay, this should hold bullish because I think that we should at least see some form of move higher today. So I'm wanting to see this 15-minute hold bullish at market open. So I think I gotta fast forward a little bit, yeah. So at market open here, NQ immediately sells off, and we actually end up sweeping out this internal low here, and ES does not. So this is market open. Notice ES, hang on, ES never sweeps out this low right here. NQ does. So we immediately put in a bullish SMT. Remember, I was already bullish biased, and I'm like, okay, this looks really good for manipulation at market open. This was a low hanging fruit for me on NQ, but kind of basically what happened here is I was pretty dang confident that we were going to see a move higher, right? Like at least to the next form, like to low hanging fruit, to the next form of buy side liquidity on either asset. But I did not expect NQ to go all the way up here, and we did not end up going here. But I was looking at this 5 minute intermediate high from pre-market. So notice this 5 minute fair value gap here. We have this intermediate high inside of it, and that was kind of this is the main like most confident draw on NQ that I had today. But I recognized that in order for me to take a long here towards this, I have to wait for this high, this most premium fair value gap to get inverted, meaning this candle, the candle that inverts this would probably close somewhere up here, and that would simply just be a bad fill for me. Like I didn't like this fill. So what actually ended up happening is, notice I also obviously, since I have it marked out, I recognize this SMT immediately following market open because I looked at ES. And when I looked at ES, I immediately recognized something. First off, ES is coming from the so okay. Let me just backtrack a little bit. So first off, ES is in an internal model. Like pre-market, this is a buy model. This is very obviously a market maker buy model on ES. We have previous day's high here. We sell off. We start to chop around here, but then we end up sweeping out the New York PM session low in London session. So London session sells off, sweeps off New York PM session low, and then we start to get displacement higher. So what does this become? This becomes turtle soup, right? This is internal manipulation inside of a buy model. So market maker buy model, sell off, internal manipulation, displacement higher. When we get displacement higher and NFP comes in at 730, notice what ES does. Do we ever take out the previous day's high? No. So ES is generating buy side liquidity. We have previous day's high as a very obvious target, and then at market open, ES ends up having a 15-minute fair value gap right here. So notice 15-minute bullish imbalance. There are no more imbalances lower. There's no real reason for ES to move much lower than this. And obviously, as like I said a second ago, we've got generated highs at previous day's high. So when I go to ES to see this SMT that got put in at market open, I immediately recognize this beautiful internal model on ES. So hang on. So this was what ES looked like at market open, and I see accumulation. This first off, this is an internal market maker ball model, obviously beautiful model. Remember, this is also a 15-minute fair value gap right here. But then at the lows, I see accumulation, manipulation, and distribution. So we've got a beautiful internal AMD. We've got an internal sweep here, inversion fair value gap, 1 minute change in the state of delivery right here, and I ended up taking my first long. So like I said, initially I was looking at NQ to go take this high, but then when I see ES, I switch over to ES to recognize this bullish SMT, and then I'm like, wait a minute, ES looks way better than NQ. This looks absolutely beautiful. So I ended up immediately taking a long on ES, and that was right on this 30-second inversion. Let me low-key bring up the executions to show what I'm talking about. So that was on this 30-second inversion. I take my first long here, and then we get like this next like very bullish candle on ES, and it's just so obvious to me at this point this is gonna go higher and be a buy model. So I ended up doubling down and added 5 more contracts on ES. And then what ends up happening here is we get bought up like pretty heavy, as you can see, but I do recognize this untapped 5 minute. That's why I've got it marked out. But I do not go break even at this 5 minute. So let me just so my fill was right here. My stop was at the low, and I was targeting previous day high. Now I do not move my stop to break even when we hit this 5 minute. Why? Because something I noticed is that look at this chart here. ES gets bought all the way up, but we never get a rebalance. So we have this big bullish move clearly heading towards previous size high, but we haven't had a real rebalance. And I'm expecting the market to do the things that the market always does, which is what? Rebalance to equilibrium. So when I see this big bullish price leg, but we haven't had any form of rebalance, then I'm expecting us to see a move lower. And we ended up like tapping my fill like to the tick. So like pretty dang close. So yeah, this is like exactly where it was. So like I said, my stop was at the low. And then this is what I was expecting this whole time. So when I see this big sell off, I'm not like tweaking out and saying like, oh my gosh, I was in all this profit and now I'm in the negative. Like I don't care. This is what I expected to see. But when we see this, when we get this rebalance to equilibrium of this displacement leg, notice this is still a very obvious buy model. We still have generated buy side here from the pre-market high, and we've still got previous day's high above as a target. So I'm expecting this to happen. I'm expecting this to hold bullish, and as you can see, it ends up holding bullish very nicely. Now at this point, this is where I actually added contracts. So if you go to the 30-second, we get this 30-second IFVG right here. Bruh, hang on. So 30-second inversion gets put in here, and notice that's where I add the rest of my cons, and I actually ended up trailing my stop to this low that was put in from the rebalance, because this is now a protected low. There's no reason for the market to come down here until we take out buy side. And then I moved my stop to break even once the internal high got taken here. And yeah, this trade plans out beautifully. And another thing that I want to note is obviously, like I've said multiple times, when you're longing one asset or you're shorting one asset, when you're looking to take a trade on either asset, you need to look at the opposing one, the correlating one, to recognize why that should move higher. Like see if there's a reason for the other asset to move in your direction. So in today's case, I was longing ES, and when I see this big rebalance here that taps my entry point and also rebalances the equilibrium of this price leg, that is this move on NQ, and I'm like, okay, maybe NQ wants to go take out this low, which would be this low on ES, and we'll put in like some sort of internal bullish SMT, and then we'll look to see it move higher. But obviously that doesn't end up happening. But what we do end up doing on NQ is holding CE of this wick, which is also a rejection block. Now, why is this a rejection block? Because this is a wick that traded into a key level. What is the key level? This low. So this is the 830 candle on NQ that puts in that internal bullish SMT, which means that the consequent encroachment of this candle, 50%, is a very sensitive point in price that we expect to hold bullish with narrative, right? Like rejection blocks on their own don't matter, but in the context of a beautiful and obvious internal market maker buy model on NQ towards this 5-minute intermediate high, and in the narrative, in the context of the fact that I'm longing ES because we're very obviously in a buy model here. Notice this is a market maker buy model inside of a market maker buy model. So fractal models inside of models, turtle soup, displacement higher, clearly heading towards previous day's high. Now when I see this sell off on NQ and I see that we're holding 50% of this wick, I mark out this bearish imbalance right here, and I say, okay, if we're bullish, NQ needs to run this, and if we and I can't talk, and if NQ runs this, then ES will definitely complete this entire move here. So notice as soon as this 1 minute candle closes, I'm like, okay, it's very obvious to me that NQ wants this 5-minute intermediate high, and it's very obvious to me now that ES has got this rebalance the ES will go continue finish the move. So yeah, that was today's trade. Very nice. Here are the executions. Like I said, I took 5 initially, then I added 5 because I realized it was an A plus setup. Then I waited patiently. Like I said, I didn't go break even at the 5 minute because I knew we were going to get a rebalance. Once we got the rebalance, I expected it to hold bullish. It did hold bullish. We then inversed the 30-second imbalance, retested the 30-second bullish imbalance, which is where I added 3 more contracts, which moved my average fill to this low. I trailed my stop to this low here, and then I cashed out the full position at this previous day's higher. And one more thing I want to note is, oh yeah, also beautiful internal AMD. If I didn't, I think I mentioned that at the beginning, but yeah, absolutely beautiful accumulation pre-market. Right at market open, we get manipulation lower, sweep out these equal lows, and then distribution higher, which is buy side of the curve. And this is a market maker bot model. But one thing I want to add is notice how the efficiency in price shifts once we get the rebalance. Because like at market open, we're clearly moving higher. Obviously, there's no doubt. But look at all these wicks and all this chop. Dude, guys, this right here is what made me know that this was coming. Because if we were just going to go straight from sweeping out these lows all the way straight up to previous day's high without ever rebalancing, this would not happen. We would not be chopping around, showing a hesitance to go higher on ES. Like the ES would not be hesitating, just chopping around wick, 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 all these wicks down here. We would just be going straight up. But when I see this hesitation to just go straight up, I know that we're getting this rebalance. And that is why, like I said, I didn't trail my stop at this 5 minute gap. Because if I would have trailed my stop here, I would have got break even stop by this move right here. So I knew, like if you can go look at my Instagram, and I posted a time lapse of the screen recording I took, and in that time lapse you can see the market come all the way down. It taps my entry point, but I don't touch my stop. I leave my stop at the low. But then once we get bought up and then we get this 30-second inversion, now I'm like, okay, now we have no more reason to chop around. We have no more reason to move lower. And now I'm expecting efficiency in price. And notice the efficiency shift once this rebalance happens. We go straight up. There's no more chopping around. There's no more wicks. It's just a straight move higher. So I move my stop from the low to this low here. That is now a protected low. Like I said, my average fill was here because it got moved from here. But when I added 3 cons, it got moved from here to here. And then I went break even at the pre-market high and cashed out at previous day's high. But yeah, really nice trade, 2 for 2 on the week, and I'll see you all in the next one. I definitely won't trade tomorrow because it's a bank holiday. And yeah, I'll see y'all at some point next week.